Hello, welcome to Skeindeer. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. You can find me as Skeindeer on Ravelry and Instagram, and there is a Ravelry group for this podcast called Skeindeer, and I really do encourage you to join. We have a KAL going on there now and it's just gonna go on indefinitely. Like, it's probably gonna go until the end of February, I imagine. I haven't set a specific date yet. I just kind of like to see how people get on with it. And I know that some of you who have ordered my mitten kit from overseas haven't received it yet, so I'm just kind of holding off for now. So there's no end date, so it's definitely safe to start and join now. The pattern itself is made so that it will knit up fairly quickly. So yeah, I encourage you to join. I also want to apologize that there is music here. I don't know if you can hear it, but it literally just started playing when I hit record, and I believe it's my neighbor who was playing loud music. That's never happened before, and apparently today is the day that they chose to do that, exactly at the hour where I'm gonna record. So I hope you can't hear it, and if you can hear it, I hope it doesn't bother you. Yeah, let's move on. So those of you who have been following for a while, you will notice that I have changed my uploading schedule to Thursdays. I mentioned so last time, and I did upload on Thursday, and I intend to do so from now onwards. I might even change it to even earlier, but for now Thursdays make more sense to me because I am more likely to be at university then, which has a much quicker uploading rate. So that's just kind of what we're gonna do for the time being. We have a lot to cover today, so I'm just gonna crack on. We're just gonna jump right into finished objects because I have some. So I did show you this last time and it was this close to being finished, and I thought I wouldn't have it here to show you because it was for my boyfriend and I see him quite frequently, so obviously I would just give it to him as soon as I can. Now, fortunately, I've not met him since last time I recorded. That sounds awful. It's gonna come around this evening. It's just I've had a friend staying over here and he's had his best friend staying over there, so that's just how it was. And I've been busy, and yeah, I look forward to seeing him today. But yeah, I want to show you his birthday present. So, thing you need to know about my boyfriend: he is a lover of animals, all animals. He, like, it's not been a huge issue yet, but when there's a big spider here and I'm like, oh god, take it, kill it off, kill it. He wanna try see what he can do to, like, take it outside and not harm it in any way possible. He really does love every animal, but bees in particular. Bees are like right up there with degus. So I thought I'd make him these bees. So this is by Drunk Girl Designs. It's a designer on Ravelry, and she made these, and they initially said they were in this order, and they said bee och, to be a bit cheeky. Her patterns tend to be a little bit rude, and I love that, but Olaf wasn't keen on the idea of them saying bee och, and I wasn't either. Like, I don't mind having mittens outside that, but my boyfriend's not gonna have mittens outside bitch. So they say Olaf. It's really easy to turn och into Olaf, turns out. I didn't even bother like doing it properly on the chart. I just kind of went, yeah, this kind of looks like it's gonna look like Olaf. And yeah, I went above gauge with these. So you're supposed to knit them with, I'm just kind of guessing now, I think about 35 stitches per 10 centimeters, and I went for about maybe 32 because I thought, you know, I want to make them fit a male size hand, and these are for women's originally. I may have taken it a bit far. I mean, I know her patterns are quite huge originally. The last time I knit from her patterns, the Hufflepuff mittens I made, you can find them on my Ravelry project. I knew they were really big, so I adjusted the stitch counts entirely and made the like badger head smaller and everything. I didn't do that with these because, you know, they're gonna be for a man. But they're big. They're like, oh, gloves. They have shrunk a bit since blocking, like, you know, when you block them. I made these foam board blockers. So I cut these out in foam board and I stretched them over, and they become as big as the foam board. Since then, you know, since taking them off and having them rest on my shelf for a bit, they have shrunken a bit, so they shouldn't be too awful for him to wear. Like, they're not too awful for me either. Like, just, there's room for gloves under here, which is good. The thumbs are, strangely enough, a pretty good size. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about these, to be honest. I used Woolly Knits 4-ply Classics Merino, which is a yarn that is actually pretty good for colour work. If you want to see up close how the stitches are turning out, it's pretty good. I mean, I've knit this fairly tightly, and I find that merino with colour work is less problematic at a tight gauge. And also this particular yarn is a very matte merino. It's not one of those sort of glossy ones, really drapey. Very soft, but unfortunately unsuitable for colour work. I wouldn't use, say, you know, typical Madeline Tosh type yarns for colour work. And this is not it. This is a different kind of merino that has a more matte woolly finish to it, and I don't think that's a terrible idea for colour work. I always will argue that sort of Shetland type yarn is the best. That will give you the best result, but there are other yarns that is still going to be good. I've had questions about that for the Mitten KAL that we're doing now. More info later and in the Ravelry group. And actually I don't know if I'm going to cover that more in this episode, so I'm just going to talk about it now. That Mitten KAL is just based on my pattern that I've just published. The pattern is available on Ravelry under my designs. I'm going to link to everything below. So yeah, I've been getting lots of questions about that pattern, about, oh, I don't have access to, you know, non-superwash pure wool DK yarn, what do? And well, one option is if you get a fingering weight yarn that's in the same type of wool, you can hold that double. I think that will be okay if it's a fine fingering. But there are other yarns that you can use. Cascade 220 I think is pretty good. It's kind of thick, but it should be alright. I think you can knit this gauge of 22 stitches per 10 centimeters there. And you can use other yarns, and I will get to that now with my second finished object. So I hope you feel like you've seen this enough. I don't think I have much else to say about this. I have talked about how the thumbs are a bit not quite how I would have done it. I would not have wanted to do the increases for the gusset here. I'd want them to be alongside here, because when they are like they just have one stitch in between, I find that looks a bit odd. That's just my personal preference, of course. There's not an error in the pattern or anything like that. So yeah, bye bye mittens. You're gonna go off and see Olaf soon. So yes, the other finished object, and this is hilarious, you guys, because I cast this on yesterday morning. So yesterday was gonna be a fairly busy day at work. Cast it on while I was still in bed and sort of trying to wake up. And we had a seminar at work where I did the rib. And then I went back home, I had dinner, and after dinner I just sat in my bed and knitted it until just before 11 o'clock UK time, which is midnight in Norway, which is when I had to finish these. This hat. This is the Bobble hat. Bobble hat, is that how you pronounce it? It's like ba for like sheep sounds and blah. Writing everything below on either side. I can never figure out which side. So this is how it's to wear right now. And it kind of fits. Like, I find it, I wish it was just slightly longer. Maybe if I give it a good soak, it will widen, because this is a superwash yarn. And that's kind of the comparison I wanted to make, because here I'm using superwash DK yarn. I used Sunless Smart for most of the colors, except the white. That was Falk by Dale. These are both Norwegian DK superwash yarns. They are sort of classic yarns that the kind of yarn that it's the default. We don't use yarn categories, sort of weights of fingering, DK, sport, worsted, iron, chunky, etc. We don't use those categories in Norway. We kind of have these kinds of DK yarns as the default, and then we say thinner if it's thinner, or thicker if it's thicker. Yeah, it's a bit odd. So this is a very standard yarn in Norway, and I was kind of wishing throughout making these that I had non-superwash yarn, because I don't feel like it's actually that good for colour work, at least not at this loose gauge. I think at a tighter gauge it will be alright. I don't know if you can see like the detail how the stitches are coming out, and they're very defined, and I don't know if defined stitches is what you want in colour work. You don't want it to fuss together, but you kind of want it to felt together to become a whole, a fabric, and it doesn't do that here. I mean, I don't have any regrets about this hat. I kind of wish it was a bit longer, like I said, but actually it's perfect. The fit is perfect. I should get used to what a perfect fitting hat is, because I rarely achieve that because my head is so big. So I went really above gauge with this, and I also cast on way more stitches initially. You're supposed to cast on 96 stitches and then increase to 120. I cast on 112 and then increased to 120, which I'm really happy that I did. I don't think I would have gotten 96 stitches around my head. And I also went above gauge because I needed to fit my head. Don't know if I'm gonna keep it. I kind of feel like it's my style, so I might just keep it and wear it. I've seen people around in London wearing this hat actually, and it's a hat that was designed for the Shetland Wool Week in 2015 by Donna Smith. I've yet to be at Shetland Wool Week. It's one of the right at the top of my list of just anything I'd like to do, and oh god, I want to go so bad. But yeah, this pattern used to be for free. It is apparently not for free anymore. But strangely, I was still able to retrieve this pattern off their website after it was declared no longer for free. So yeah, I got the pattern for free legally after it's been paid for. So yeah, back to like how long it took me to make it. It took me a day. And the reason why is because I wanted to make it for Nordic Stitches podcast, Knit Along. She has the resolutions KAL, so you write a list. And the number of items you have on the list is the number of months you have left of 2017. So I just wrote a list of 12 items in January. And I thought at least I'd finish maybe Find Your Fade by the end of January. But I haven't because I'm lacking a skein, which is something I will get back to. And I was hoping maybe Agatha will be done, but it's not because I had some issues with the sleeves. So yeah, I figured I had to finish something. I didn't want to like I didn't want to start the KAL badly, and I thought, okay, what can I make quickly that I really want to make? Okay, I could just make a Christmas ball early, but that's really early. Like, it's just gonna look ridiculous for me to make a Christmas ball just because I ran out of time. Like, that's kind of obvious. Not something I want to knit in January, obviously, although I do miss Christmas. So I figured this hat would be very suitable. It's something I could use here and now because it's January. Actually, it's 1st of February today. Christ. Oh. So that seems like something I could make in a genuine way that wasn't just rushing it to make the deadline, although I did rush it to make the deadline, but not at the expense of anything. This pattern is still looking as I would have had I had more time. So I think that's all I want to say about this hat. Apologize for any continuity errors. My battery died really early on. I guess I've been using my camera a lot lately. So I wanted to talk about my Agatha cardigan because I've really not knitted anything since last week, so this is going to be very briefly. I ripped out the sleeve. I just done a sleeve cap. It's like a short row sleeve cap, and it didn't look very good. So now I just have the sleeve back again, back on the needles. It's kind of weird that I want to knit the sleeves before I'm actually done with the body, but that's just how I knit apparently. So they're back on the needles now, and if you have, like I watched earlier and I got some good advice, I'm definitely going to try that, but I'm still kind of just asking just in case if you know any way to do short rows that looks nice on the purl side. So I'm trying to pick up the wrap and turns, the wraps around that stitch in a way that you can't really see that well on the purl side, and it seems like every tutorial I can find is to make the knit side look nice, and it's just not what I need because the purls are on the outside. I don't really care what the knit side looks like. So I'm gonna try twin stitches. I'm gonna try Isolde Latigue's method, but none of them are like specially for making the purl side look nice. So I'm still, yeah, we'll see. So I just want to show you the whole garment again. It's just, let's just do this quickly. It's inside out. Brilliant. I feel like, does this happen every episode, you guys? So yeah, this is the back piece and front here, sleeve holes. You get the idea. I really hope I can finish this in 2 weeks time because that's when Andy Sutherland's KAL is ending. Really didn't get much time, like cardigan in what, 2 months? No, it's less than 2 months. It's not a lot of time, and I do knit a lot, but even that to me, well, it requires a bit of monogamous knitting, which is not really something I do. So I don't know if I'm gonna make it, but there's still the Andy sat along and inside number 23 that I could do. So, and regardless, I want to have this cardigan, so it doesn't really matter. But the sooner I finish this, the sooner I can start my cardigan that's hanging up on the wall that you can't see, but pictures in my Ravelry that I want to do for the kofta along, which Nordic Stitches and Arctic Knitting are doing together, which is about knitting sort of Norwegian colorwork cardigan like the one I'm wearing until, I think it's until May. And I'd like to have it ready for Edinburgh Yarn Festival, to be honest. I want to wear something new. I got plenty of nice garments I could wear. There's still like dress to impress people, I'm sure, but I want something new. But maybe it doesn't matter. So yeah, I should talk about what I'm wearing. I have been wearing this a couple of times before. It's the very first Marius that I made for myself, I believe. It's made in Sanne Sisu, and I think it's, yeah, it's a yoke, sticked yoke. I had my mom just sew some stitches like on the sewing machine. We do like 3 double seams on each side and then cut through, and then you add the button bands and buttons, and there you are. I have my reservations against this pattern. I've done it a couple of times now, both as a sweater and a cardigan, and my problem is that the yoke is too short. It goes right into my armpits. It's comfortable, but it just gets sweaty really quickly, and I have to wash it more, and I'd rather not wash my wool wear that much. It does wear out the fibre. Even if you use the right wool wash, it's eventually gonna lose a bit of quality, just a tiny bit, but like I want to avoid it for as long as I can. My other issue is that the yoke is very open. So now I'm sitting, it's kind of fine, but usually when I walk around it's sort of exposed here. And I'd rather be warm and snug all the way up here, and I don't want my back to be, you know, it's really bare on my neck here. So if I were to do this again, which I have done, I still didn't do this modification. I do short rows in the neck. I would do more decreases before I get to the rib around the neck. I think that has a nicer fit. Obviously it will depend on lots of factors, like the size of your head, if you can get over your head, if you're doing a jumper, how many stitches to decrease. But yeah, that's what I would have done differently. Other than that, it's a really good pattern. I think maybe the rib at the bottom as well is a bit too tight. That's probably more to do with my gauge than pattern issues. So yeah, I'd also like to do a waist short Marius cardigan. I will get back to that when we're talking about my haul for this episode, because I got a lot of yarn. So I've been suffering from some very serious Castonitis this week. It's been insane. Like, I cast on so many things. Like, it's that hat. At least I finished it, so it's not another whip. But I cast on so many things. So I cast on these mittens, and I actually did a little tutorial on how I cast them on, because they start off identical to, I didn't realize that when I made them, but they start off identical to my own mittens. It's just that they're on fingering weight, so they have more stitches. So I did a very informal tutorial that's unlisted on YouTube. I've linked to it in the Ravelry group if you care, but it's bad. Like, I just wanted to show you each and every technique that I have linked to in a playlist that you can find on this channel for the mittens. I wanted to show that all together, how you do it successively. But I'm not showing each technique in the best possible way, because this yarn is not ideal. So I still recommend going through my playlist and kind of finding your way of knitting these things. Anyway, these are the mittens I cast on. So this is the palm side. Yeah. And this is like back of the hand. So I am really enjoying these, but I have some reservations to the yarn, and it's because they're using a lot of long fiber wools, and it's only been until recently that I've learned about these fibers. I usually just say that any sort of non-superwash pure wool is ideal. Not entirely true, because there are sheep breeds that are closer to kind of alpaca-like stuff, and they have longer fiber. They come across as more drapey. You can see this. It has that stickiness that you want, but it's kind of silky as well, and that's because the fibers are really long, and it's also worsted spun, which means the fibers have been combed to be parallel. I hope I'm not mixing up the term worsted and woolen, but I think I'm getting it right, that the worsted spun is where it's been combed to be parallel, so they're not sticky as they could have been, but it means it's drapier. So I find that my stitches are not as distinct, maybe. I would say defined, but I'm still looking for a sort of felted surface. So hopefully you know what I mean. And I want to show you the skeins I'm working on. So I'm working on Tamer by Blacky Yarns. It's the Tamer 4-ply. So these skeins, right, they're super different. I hope we agree, they're very different. This is dark, this is bright. But do you see the mittens I was holding up? Like, the pattern is hardly coming through. It's a very low contrast mitten. I have no idea how this is happening. how it can be. I mean, the yarn is kind of fussy, which is one of the issues I have. The other is the drapiness of it. I find that these stitches do sort of, I don't know, drape. That's the best word I could find. I hope that maybe if I give them a little wash, a gentle little wash, they will behave themselves. But regardless, the reason I cast these on is because I want to have a pair of mittens ready for the Blacky Yarn Pod KAL, which is related to Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So if you knit something in Blacky Yarns, you will get a discount, and you'll probably also be in a price drop or something. I don't know. I just want to knit with my Blacky Yarn because now I have a occasion to do so. So this is what I have so far. They're gonna be 2 mittens, so I better get on with it. But it's gone surprisingly quick so far. I managed to do this much despite being really busy this week, and I didn't actually make the deadline I was hoping to make. I had to give up. There was just too many things that wasn't ready in time, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. I made it up to be a big deal in my head. But so I had to do some stress knitting, and I am happy I did. So I want to talk about this pattern a little bit. It's from my Selbu Mitten book, and it's called Hilmar Kulset mittens. So they are knitted on Colorster, which I guess is a place, but also the surnames of the knitters. So apparently this was a place. I'm assuming it was a farm. So basically it was just these 2 unmarried women who were living together, and particularly known for being very, very good mitten knitters in this village where these mittens are from. I'm talking about this book, by the way, which is Selbu Mittens, which is based on the mittens that come from a village in my home country, Norway. And the village is very close to where I'm from, so they feel very dear and close to my heart. Of course, I think a lot of Norwegians can agree, even though they're not from nearby, because they have really spread in popularity throughout the country throughout many, many years. But they come from this village, and so these mittens are designed by some women that lived from the late 1800s to 1968 to 70, and knitted mittens like nobody's business. Like, there's a, I can't show you this without revealing too much. So there's a little picture of the ladies here. Can you see that? And there's a picture of the finished mittens. So mine would obviously have less contrast than these. I'm not going to show you more because that's the pattern. It's a paper book, of course. So there's a lot of history behind these mittens, and I'm really happy that they have been written up into a pattern that I can knit from. There are quite a few patterns like these at the back of this book, but mainly this book is a book full of charts. And that's just a teaser of the whole book talk I'm going to do at the end of this episode. I'm going to go more into depth about this book and many other books. Now, I'm not entirely done about these mittens, turns out, because I have had some questions with regards to my mitten KAL. Although different mittens, same things apply. So I'm knitting these in magic loop. Traditionally, people knit them with 5 sock needles, so 4 on the project, 1 that you knit with. I'm not too keen on that. I like magic loop better. You do what you want, of course. So the question I'm getting is, how do you avoid getting weird float issues between the 2 needles? So how do I not get like an odd float happening here? And there are several ways of doing this. Of course, you can, you know, before you knit the last stitch here, wrap the 2 yarns around one another so that it's secured. You knit another stitch on the other side, and then you wrap the 2 yarns over again. That way it will be secured on either side of the needle. And that's a really good way of doing it. Of course, you need to make sure you're not doing that in every row, because if you wrap around in the same place, and one row after the other, you will get some weird laddering there. So you want to make sure you don't do it at the exact same spot. Now, what I like to do, which kind of works around that issue, is that whenever I start a new needle, so let's just pretend you're knitting with me now, and let's pretend I'm going to start a new needle. So usually, you know, with magic loop you pull this out. I like to keep, say, 2-3 stitches from each color. So we got these now, can you see that? I'm the worst tutorial maker, guys. So I like to keep these on and pull out the cable here. So that way there's no laddering effects, and you can do this with like a vanilla sock as well if you have issues with laddering, because that gap has been sort of taken care of when you knit it earlier in the middle of the needle, and it's not going to pull on that because you have like 3 stitches from each color here. So you can just start knitting and it's as if you're already on your way on the other needle. Hopefully that makes sense. Just try it out and you will understand what I mean. I am very practical in my knitting. I'm not very theoretical. When I read a pattern, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me. When I see a tutorial even, I'm like, not entirely sure what they're doing. But if I can do it with my own hands, it really does resonate with me. So if this didn't quite make sense to you, I just suggest trying it. So instead of pulling out the whole needle after you've knitted it, keep 5 to 6 stitches on and pull it out after those, so that you have the last stitches that you knitted still on that needle. That's not possible with sock needles, I'm afraid, so for that you will have to do the also secure it on both sides of the needle. Just sort of try to alternate where you do it. But in general, I think a really good rule of thumb when you are dealing with long floats is never let them go across 5 stitches. When you're knitting with sort of, I would say any gauge that's like 20 stitches per 10 centimeters or up, don't let the float go longer than 5 stitches. So say you knit 5 stitches with your main color, you have a contrast color that's floating at the back. After 5 stitches, that's fine. I am completely okay with the float for 5 stitches. But if you're knitting 6 stitches, knit 3 in the main color, wrap the yarn round and knit 3 in the main color again. I don't like them being over 6 stitches. At that point, that's like my threshold. That's when the float gets a bit unruly and annoying. There are many other ways, of course, but this is just how I do it, and it's turning out alright, so I thought I'd share that with you. I've been serious when I say that I suffered from Castonitis this week. There's not just those mittens and the hat. There is also a pair of socks. So I'm just working on the first sock, and this is a pattern I've been developing since maybe November, maybe October. I've shown you the first pair of socks that I made, picture here. I've given them away to my friend Christy. She wanted a pair of socks for Christmas, and I just designed them for her after some scrap yarn that I had, and I have more scrap yarn, and I want to write this up as a pattern that I can publish on Ravelry. I've had a lot of success with my mitten pattern. It's been super inspiring, and I want to thank you all so much for buying it. It's really helpful when living in London to have just a little bit of extra cash, and I really like writing up patterns, and I like having made something that's my own, and I like researching old stranded knitting patterns and kind of putting them together into my project and taking maybe a more modern twist to it, and that's kind of what I'm doing with these socks. So this is what I've cast on. So I'm doing completely different colors here. I'm actually even doing one color fewer, so I've ditched one of the contrast colors and I'm doing purely grey contrast color and this sort of burgundy. So yeah, I'm using Drops Fable. I was kind of trying to not use so much drops this year, but I still have some drops yarn to knit up, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm really happy about this color. I really hope that you will find it inspiring to see in different colors. I have some very prolific test knitters working on these socks that volunteered when I asked for test knitters on my Instagram account. Thank you so much, and I really love what you guys are making so far. It's looking super cool. So yeah, I'm just making another pair of socks for myself. This is gonna go into my box of socks, and that way I can ensure that the German short row heel that I'm putting in there is looking all right, because I have no idea how to make a German short row heel right now. So I'm really trying to make sure it's absolutely perfect, that it makes sense, because last pair of socks I did was in the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and the Fish Lips Kiss heel I'm not allowed to put in the pattern, but you really should just buy it, because you get so much value for your money. It's $1 worth, and it will go to a very talented knitter who is battling breast cancer right now, so it would be just a lovely thing to buy. But regardless, you can choose between short row and Fish Lips Kiss heel in my pattern whenever it comes out. I'm kind of aiming for somewhere in March. It totally depends on how quickly I knit up these socks and how quickly my test knitters do it, but I'm really optimistic about it right now. It's going to come in different sizes, and as with my mittens, the sizes will depend on gauge. The reason why I'm doing this is, one, because I kind of have this little agenda to make people aware of the gauge, and the other reason is because I have knitted with a similar stitch count to these many times, and I know that with a stitch count with a gauge of about 32 stitches per 10 centimeters, that stitch count is perfect for my feet, and I have about size 39 to 40. And I was really lucky to come across a free pattern on Ravelry that had the exact same stitch count, but with a slightly tighter gauge of, I think, about 35 stitches per 10 centimeters, and that led to a completely different size. So I was essentially able to fill in the gaps there with different gauges to achieve a size from, I think, European 35 to European 40, which is a fairly good range. So that's why I'm not doing different sizes with different stitch counts, although arguably that's a better idea. But I just felt like I could get lots of different sizes in instead of just publishing a size 39 to 40 and have the rest of you guys just having to figure out how to do it otherwise, because it's really difficult to figure out doing it differently when you have to knit after a certain chart. And my charts are not that malleable in terms of doing different sizes in terms of stitch counts. So I really want to learn how to write a pattern that way, and I want to teach other people how to adjust for size with gauge. And I think that could teach us all a very important skill in terms of gauge. Yeah. So Castonitis is real. I cast on this morning. This is all I've done. Like, it was just to wake up. I apparently start my day with knitting right now. So I'm just knitting these in the round, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. Yeah, do you mind if I just knit for the rest of the episode? Is that fine? I'm probably not going to, because we're going to have a little yarn haul now. But yeah, I'm casting this on for the needle lady, aka Pinneguri. She has a little long. I'm casting it on for her KAL. And it's about using her patterns in a creative way. So you are allowed to mix her patterns up with other patterns. I'm doing that. I'm knitting a completely different garment, but I'm adding her charts to it. It's definitely going to resemble like her initial garment, but it's going to be a completely different thing. Eventually going to make her garment as well, but I thought this is a more creative take. It's going to be more appropriate for this KAL. The prices are insane. I want to win this KAL so much, and I know this project is probably not the best contender for it, but it's still something I really want to have. Like, if this was me a couple of years ago, I would have made the TARDIS Marius that I made ages ago. I used a Kate Davies pattern, which is they're very similar in style, like the mix of waist fitted color work, yokes, and I might as well just have used the needle ladies and put the TARDIS on there. That way I would have actually made it to the KAL, but it's a very old pattern. I ended up using Kate Davies sweater instead. Yeah, but I just putting it here for inspiration for those of you who are taking part, and for those of you who wish to take part. I don't know if it's like a Norwegian exclusive one, but it's generally conversation is in Norwegian. But I've seen like other Scandinavians being there. I've seen some English language people, but generally I think it helps if you understand Norwegian. So being a Scandinavian or having just some understanding of Norwegian or a very good like translating tool, I think that will make you eligible. I'm not finally read the rules, but yeah, I really should do this a bit more properly, shouldn't I? I'm using Navia. It's a Fairies pure wool yarn, which I love. I adore this yarn. It's clearly opposed to focusing. There, that's a focus, all right. So this is a pure wool fingering weight. It's got 180 meters per 50 grams gain. I've got plenty of these because Wild and Woolly has been discontinuing this yarn from their stock, so I just bought everything. And I love it. It's very similar to Derma Fino, but it's also different. It's denser, but yet has more meters. It's less fussy. It's hard, but smoother. I think you just have to feel the difference to tell. It's literally very little I can show you here, but they're interchangeable. Definitely interchangeable. Very comparable. Okay, are you ready for the acquisitions? Are you ready? I am ready. Oh god, I got so many lovely things in the mail. First thing up is a yarn swap. So I apparently have a yarn swap friend that I got very early in my podcasting days. I initially swapped yarn with Dana this autumn, and I was like horrified when I received her swap because it was so much more than what I had given her. Like half of this shelf is basically what I got from her in quantity. It was insane. It was like a whole fruit box full of awesomeness. So many yarns from Germany and books and sweets, and I was so spoiled, and I was like, oh god, I have to make this up to you. Let me send you more later on. And she was like, no, we could just do a second swap and I'll send you more. And I'm like, you were happy about this? Okay, cool. So now we are yarn swap friends. And yeah, I have made it clear that my student budget is and remains a student budget, but I was able to buy quite a bit for her in Norway, as well as finding some of my Norway stash to give away, because that's some really good stuff there. So feeling slightly less ashamed of that swap, but still, like, what I got in return now is insane. So deep breath. Okay, let's just start off with this humble little Opal advent calendar game. And I got this, which I feel like it looks like a Regia to me, or maybe Opal. So it's just a little scrap skein and I love it. It's gonna go into my blanket and then who knows what. I'm just kind of starting with these of regular commercial yarns and then we'll go more deeper. So I got these Regia skeins. I'm holding things upside down. What else is new? So these are 200-gram skeins and they're so good. I love Regia. I love Regia and Opal. They have just the sturdiest sock yarn and they're still really nice and soft and squishy. It's not merino or anything. It's, I have no idea what it is, to be honest. It just says virgin wool, which is weird because I'm pretty sure this is superwash. It's kind of weird to call it new wool when it's superwash treated, but anyway, it feels very good. It feels very woolly, and I have plans for this. I think I do anyway, and I think I'm going to write up a second sock pattern for these. I'm working on it. I was working on it a bit late yesterday, slightly sleep deprived today, but yeah, I hope to get that sock pattern out once the other sock pattern is out. I'm going to try to do them a bit spread apart, but yeah, it's going to be a sock pattern that where you can use, you know, multicolored yarns. I know that's really popular, so I would be super excited if I could get a pattern out that's suitable for that but still has sort of my flair to it, color work, etc. I'm gonna be a bit hush about that right now. Maybe I want that to be a bit secretive because you know what my next sock pattern is gonna look like, so maybe the one after that can be a bit of a surprise. I don't know, maybe you let me know what you think. And so the other thing I got was 4 scraps of wool mice sock yarn. And these are big. Like, I've measured these and compared them to like how many meters that will be. And there are some socks in this. Like, I know exactly what to do with them. Okay, I'm going to tease you a bit about my pattern plans. Yeah, this is my pattern plan. So yeah, that was my teaser. We're not going to mention anything more. And just look at this red. Sorry, I'm completely, oh, it's such a pretty red. And I love that there's white. I wish I had more white wool mice sock yarn. I don't know, whenever I go to Germany I'm definitely going to try and get some wool mice neutrals. It's a bit weird that I'm really keen on getting neutrals from hand dyers, but I just want a neutral with the colors that they make so that I can, I guess, kind of balance it out a bit with color work. And I got these. These are their 100% merino fingering weight skeins. There's one that's like pink and purple. Look at that. Oh, look at that colour. Oh, wool mice knows colours. I really don't understand how they went out of fashion in the sort of yarn dyeing fan base that we have here on YouTube, in the podcasting community in general. I really don't understand because wool mice are proper sturdy. They are like, their colours rarely like wash out. I knitted a whole shawl in like really bright red and I soaked it and the colour stayed. It didn't bleed or anything, so I trust them with colour. I trust them with sturdiness. I mean, they do wind their skeins really hard, so you can make some serious damage with these, but don't mistake that for them not being soft. They really are soft. They're just wound tightly, and when you just give them a soak, you don't even need any soap or certainly not conditioner with superwash yarn. They just soften up with being knitted up and soaked. So yeah, and this is the other skein. It's the burgundy, and you guys know how I feel about burgundy, so I am very excited to find a project that will be suitable for these. I don't think I'll be using them together. This one's a bit too crazy and this is very muted in the way that I'm thinking will collide a little, but I could just mix them up with other stuff and I'm very eager to do so. But for the last, this is the last skein, and it's something I had on my wish list, and it's been on my wish list for a very long time, and I mentioned it in the very early podcasting days. Blow Tint by Wool Mice. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so we're just gonna put it here. It's a lace skein, but I would say that Wool Mice's lace is more like a light fingering weight, and you can definitely do shawls and garments with it. Not like hard wearing garments, but featherweight, for instance, definitely. My plan for this is to use my, so I got 3 skeins of Wool Mice lace already. We've got white, pink and purple. These are the same color actually, it's just a different hue, different saturation, different, like, it's just been dyed for like a stronger color, the darker one. Anyway, now I've got a blue one and I want to use it with the white one, and I want to use it with my red scrap from the other lace shawl that I made from Wool Mice. and make a Marius. So I'm gonna make a really light Marius. I'm thinking of sticking it so that I can button it up, because I do like to button up. And I'm thinking maybe of going away from my usual yokes and having a sewed-in sleeve. But I'm still deciding, and I might take some lessons from my Agatha and do it and construct it that way, which means I'll have to do color work back and forth unless I want to stick to sleeve holes. Regardless, when I put on the sleeves, I can do short row sleeves that way as well. I think you could do short rows with color work, and if not, I could just start the color work a bit further down. I'm still thinking about this and what's the best way to go on about it. There are many Marius patterns, of course, that just have a sewn-in sleeve that you sew on and it goes straight out and your arm is hanging down, so it would just naturally go down that way. They would kind of bunch up a bit in your armpit, and that might not be ideal. So I'm still churning out ideas in my head for how to use it best. But I'm nonetheless very excited, and I'm sure, even though this is a lace yarn, which I would argue is more like a light fingering, that it will be fine in a pattern that recommends a remarkably heavier yarn, because the gauge is still like 27 stitches per 10 centimeters for the fingering weight Mariuses, and that's perfectly fine for this. I think, like, my Woolmizer shawl is, I think I did 22 or 24 stitches per 10 centimeters, and still it feels relatively dense, like it could be worn and not be see-through. If you've got light shining through it, you can see through, but in general I don't think that's going to be an issue with this. And just look at this color. We're just going to take a moment and look at this color. Yeah, okay, we good? So that was my whole shipment from Dana. I'm not sure if her name is pronounced Dana or Dana because she's German. So yeah, let's just try to hold all this up, shall we? Let's just do that. I saw people do that on BookTube and they got books, so we can do that. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, Dana. I've not thanked you in person yet because I am a bit absent-minded. So that's that. I am expecting a yarn shipment today, and I was hoping it would arrive with me before I record this. However, it's not here yet. It's a shipment from Germany, so I just realized I forgot a whip. What's wrong with me? I'm working on my Find Your Fade shawl, and I'm lacking the last skein, and I've talked about this before, what to do. I looked at some skeins at Loop, but none of them were calling my name. So shall we talk about my Find Your Fade now? I'm sorry to those of you who didn't want to watch my yarn haul, and now I'm mentioning my Find Your Fade in the middle of that, and you're missing out. I'm terribly sorry. I'm the worst podcaster ever, and my head is just all over the place, and I could probably put it in there with some clever editing, but I'm not going to. Sorry. So this is the beginning. It's Labian Ami yarn all the way through, brown and this sort of cream color with gold speckles that I thought would blend better into my gold yarn, but it doesn't, but that's fine. And it goes more rusty, and we're into the red. And it's the red now that I'm about to finish. I'm about to stripe it in with my next color, and that's why I'm kind of hoping to get it in the mail soon, because it's the Poison colorway by Hedgehog Fibers in their Skinny Singles skein. And I managed to get it from this odd German site in German language, and I don't speak German, but I still managed to sort of understand it and make the order. So I'm expecting a skein of Hedgehog Fibers and 2 neutrals from, I think, Regia, possibly Opal, but I think it was Regia. So it's just 1 white and 1 natural white, just for sock knitting, because I am going to try to be better with sock knitting this year and make it to the box of socks KAL. But I want to do color work, and as I've said, with color work I want some neutrals to go with my strong colors. So Find Your Fade, you guys. So sorry I didn't get to be the star of the show today. It's been hugely popular on Instagram. It's been trending among the Find Your Fade shawls there for a really long time, and that's been super cool. Kind of weird because I'm not that kind of knitter, you know. I don't get on these fads much, but it's cool to be part of it and trying it. And how nicely is this going to wear when I'm done? It's going to look so cool, and I really like how this light color is breaking up, even though it looks kind of odd when I'm holding up the shawl. So yeah, I feel very good about knitting this, and I'm feeling good about being done as well, because it's getting a bit boring. It's kind of the same thing throughout. I know lots of knitters find that very meditative, but for me it's kind of getting a bit old, so I'm looking forward to finishing off. And it's only a matter of half a skein now, which is gonna be fine. I'm gonna finish this in February, and I'm gonna have another finished project for the Resolutions KAL. Can you say the most disorganized episode ever? I forgot to mention this project bag that I got from Dana as well, and I'm pretty sure she sewed this for me. God, this is just the most disconnected podcast ever, isn't it? So anyway, it's just full of rainbow mustaches, and you know what? On the inside, there's just more rainbow mustaches. I love this so much. This is like, I feel like this is part of my taste that's not really been coming forward in my podcast that much, but Dana certainly knows. So thank you so much. This is so cool. I love this so much. Like, sure, I got crazy over the yarn, but this bag is giving me so much joy. And my colorwork socks are resting in here now. So hopefully, definitely, it's gonna make me want to knit those socks a lot and finish them and give you, like, publish that pattern and have more really interesting things to say about that pattern. But for now, I think we need to move on to the last skein that I got in the mail. So what I was trying to say is I got Dana's swap from Germany, and I'm expecting a parcel from Germany in with the head duck fibers and the Regia yarn. And I also received the local yarn club from a homespun house, and I'm gonna show it to you now. But if you really don't want to see it because you're expecting it in the mail and it hasn't reached you yet, just look away. I'm gonna just open another window and do something else and listen to me. I'm not gonna describe it. I'm not gonna give any spoilers. I'm just gonna show it to people and talk about how crazy I am about this fiber. So yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled, I'm gonna let you know when I put it away as well. So look away. This is a skein. Ah, I love this so much. This, I have never been this obsessed with a yarn in a long time. And this is exactly what I wanted, what I want yarn dyers to do more, to use this type of yarn, because this yarn is a non-superwash pure wool. It is a merino, but I've come to realize lately that merino isn't all merino. I did receive from my first swap with Dana these merino skeins over there, and they're very hard. They don't remind you of merino in any possible way, and I love it. And this is one of those. It's lighter, like it looks like a really heavy skein. It looks comparable to my lace weight, but this is 300 grams, but this skein from a homespun house is under 100. It's so light, yet it's got packed in 400 meters of yarn, but it's so lofty that it looks actually fairly thick. So if you can look at the thickness of this yarn, I'm gonna try to get focus here. You could knit this on DK weight. You really could, yet it has the meterage of fingering weight yarn, and it's classified as such. I love this so much, and I wish I had another 3 skeins so I could just knit up a whole garment in it. I think I know exactly what I would make. But what I would try, maybe, is to get hold of 4 undyed skeins, because then this could be the colorwork color for a garment. That will get me so excited. I don't know if Molly ever sells undyed skeins that you can use with this. I know other yarn dyers do, but if not, do you guys know anywhere you can get a equivalent yarn in neutral colors like whites, greys, beige, I don't know, etc. So I wanted, like, I have those skeins here, but they are 300 meters per 100 gram skeins, which is perfectly fine. But I'd really like more yarns like this where the yarn is thick, yet it's got crammed in 400 meters per 100 grams, which is amazing. It gives a really light, lofty garment, which is what I want when I do color work, because I'm already knitting with 2 strands. I'd rather not the garment be any heavier than it already will be due to that. So if you know anywhere where they sell this really sort of rustic yarn, this kind of German merino that feels really hard, really crunchy, and it's got so many meters in it, I think if I could get hold of more of that, oh god, I would be so happy. Because imagine I could knit this in a really loose gauge as well. It would be so light. And well, I've not talked about the colors here. I'd rather not describe them too much for those of you who are like looking away now, but you can see them. I'm gonna hold it up for you so you can see, and it's exactly the colors I wanted. I've been watching Molly's podcast and seen some other colours, and I was a bit like, ooh, I don't know if that's the colour I would use, and I'm suspecting maybe that's what we're gonna get. But of course she didn't show us the colour we would get, and it wasn't that colour. It was this, and it's so cool. So yeah, I have never felt as inspired by any yarn since I got this. And I think if I ever was a yarn dyer, I definitely use this kind of yarn. That will be kind of my speciality, to get really cool colors and rustic yarns, because you really don't get that much with this kind of yarn. You just get solids usually. So I want more of this. I'm so incredibly happy that this was my first yarn club. I've been thinking about joining yarn clubs before, but generally I don't care for the kind of bases that many dyers use. I find them very limited in what I would make with them. If it's 100% merino, I'd really only use them for shawls. I wouldn't wear them on my feet because they don't have nylon. I wouldn't wear them as a garment because they would pill when I wear them with like a bag on my arms, or you know, whatever gives them friction. They would grow too much to be a head to wear, and hands, and be too drapey, not really sit on my hands too well. Like, I would have too many issues with it. But this opens up so many possibilities. I wouldn't wear them on my feet, again, due to the lack of nylon. But with color work, I could do so many things. And I'm just, like I said, never felt as inspired by any yarn in a really long time. So I'm gonna put it away now so that people can come back and look at my silly face instead. Ah, it's Ellie from the future who just got mail. Look at that. Oh my god, that's a very pink skein. Oh, we'll have to have a think about that, how well it goes into the shawl. And I got my two neutral. Was it Opal or Regia? It was Opal. I misremembered. And there's the more bleached one. I think one of each will suit different needs. And I got a little sweet. Okay, resuming to the episode. So we're done with the yarn haul now. It's a very long episode today, guys. I am awfully sorry. But I have been asked to go through some knitting books, and okay, so it's Ellie from the future here. I have decided in the midst of going through all the knitting books to include this in a separate video. So we're gonna skip over the books entirely, and you can click a separate video to see those. It will probably go up a bit later than the actual episode, maybe at the same time, I don't know. So yeah, just hang around for that to come up. And for now, I just really want to thank you so much for watching. I hope it wasn't too like disconnected with me forgetting my works in progress in the midst of my yarn haul, or to be honest, remembering my works in progress in the midst of my yarn haul. I'm gonna go back to finish recording my book walkthrough with you, and that will be a separate video. And again, thank you so much for watching, and sorry this is a messy video. I hope it's not too messy, but do join my Ravelry group. As I've told you, we have Mitten KAL there, and a Q&A and a general chatted thread, and I'll open a thread for this episode. And yeah, I hope you will have a really nice week. Bye.